Why Zoom?
All right, guys. So we'll get started here. We should have a few more people joining. But we'll do a quick introduction for those who aren't familiar. My name is Alex Logel. I'm one of our solution specialists here on the team at Ingram. You are getting the newsletter from me. So if you have any questions moving forward, you want to connect with the team, need a resource over here on the Aruba line at Ingram, please feel free to reach out. Today we are going to be doing an overview of Aruba Central for you guys. We've got two parts for you. Kicking it off is going to be Brandon Atchley, who we have here. Brandon, if you want to give a little wave. Brandon is our technical support specialist on the Aruba line. He's going to walk through the Aruba Central overview for you guys, including some promos. And then to conclude, we're going to have John Busshart, who is our Senior Solutions Center engineer. John's going to be doing a demonstration of Aruba Central for all of us, and then we will conclude with any questions. So very informal. If you guys have any questions, feel free to throw them in the chat and we'll get those answered for you. But I'll pass it over to you, Brandon.
Perfect. Awesome. So let me share my screen here. All righty. Is it sharing properly?
I can see it.
Perfect. Awesome. So yeah, today we're going to talk about Aruba Central. I'm going to go over features, functions, how to purchase it, and then some promotions we have going. So we're going to talk about today's struggles that we see in the IT world. We're going to do the Aruba Central overview, how to buy it, promotions, and then we're going to end it off with the demo. So in today's world, we have a lot of IT struggles and changes that are happening. It causes our environment to have to, change and be modified, flex with, the situations that's going on in the world today. So we have many external factors as far as like growing number of users, devices. We have different locations popping up, moving, access from anywhere around the world that people need to, gain access. That's our external factors. And then we have internal factors as far as like budget, manpower. A lot of IT professionals are having to wear many different, hats today. You are not just your network engineer, but you could be your UC engineer. So it's kind of a struggle that we're seeing more and more that, people are, managing different departments, and Aruba Central is kind of a really good way of mitigating that. Then we have the factors of wanting to see what's going on with our networks. So as far as the insights into our network, we have limited visibility, limited control. Aruba Central is going to solve all of that with giving us visibility into what the apps people are using, control over what they can and can't use, and then we have the flexibility to grow it and scale it as what's needed. So the kind of mitigating a lot of the struggles that today's IT environments are really having. Next, we're going to talk about the SMB challenges. So a lot of times we'll hear from small business that the Wi-Fi sucks, the Wi-Fi is poor. Why are we having these issues? And we don't really have a good way in smaller markets to figure out why, right? How do we fix that? Why is our network running so bad? And then another one is affordability, so cost, right? People don't have the budget or the ability to pay for these enterprise Wi-Fi solutions that are going to fix those performance needs. Well, with Aruba Central, we're going to have those capabilities, right? We don't need to pay for expensive controllers, expensive licensing, expensive upfront costs to deploy these enterprise-grade solutions. Then the cost of deploying those solutions is another factor that we struggle with, regularly, right? How are we going to do this, right? We don't have the staff on site with the expertise to deploy these, right? So 6 out of 10 small businesses, they struggle, right? They're like, okay, we can maybe afford it, but how do we deploy this? And with Aruba Central, we really don't have to worry about that struggle. We really don't have that fear for the fact that Aruba Central is very simple to use, very, a web-driven, very GUI-driven. Gives us a really great flexibility in terms of how to deploy, what we can deploy. So for the small businesses that kind of, how am I going to do this? How am I, I don't have the staff. How am I going to pay for the staff to manage this? How am I going to monitor it? How am I going to manage it, right? Because it's all from the cloud, because it's all through a single pane of glass, and because I can umbrella control all of my different features as far as my wireless, my gateways, my switches, it's really a true powerful solution. And then the visibility and guest access is probably, two of the, truly great benefits for the fact that now with Aruba Central, you have the visibility, right? So 95%, and I think that number's low, I think 100% companies, they want visibility into what applications, and they want control over what the users are doing. And Aruba Central is really going to address those issues, right? So we don't have the, what are people connecting to? How do I stop this? How do I mitigate this? Aruba Central is going to handle all of that for us. Now to kick it off, so Aruba Central is the heart of ESP, which is the Edge Services platform that Aruba's been developing and kind of rolling out. So the Edge Services platform is encompassing a wide variety of different categories, right? So we have our wireless, which is what kind of started and grew from there and branched off into switching, VPN, SD-WAN, and we even have other categories as far as like device insight from ClearPass and user experience insight, which allows us to get a lot of the analytics and troubleshooting and monitoring of the networks. Aruba Central is based off of a SaaS token, which is a tier licensing model. You license it per the devices that you're putting on as far as the APs, switches, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on kind of how it's licensed, how it's purchased. They offer foundation care with Aruba Central, so another true great benefit with a lot of vendors don't offer for some reason is the an uplift of support. So just because you're buying a cloud-based solution doesn't mean you don't want support. And we have the ability to put the support on the APs and make sure that we are still covered by next business day or 4-hour replacement on those APs and getting exchanges when needed. One of the things Aruba Central has been rolling out recently, and this has been a huge kind of benefit for us all, is that now it's not just a cloud-only platform. They are rolling out abilities to deploy it on-premise, and they even have a as-a-service solution for it through HPE GreenLake. So here's kind of just a quick snippet of the dashboard and how it looks. And we will get into the dashboard later with John, who will be able to pull this up and click all the bells and whistles to give us a comprehensive look at it. But just as a look, we can see, right, we have the overall map of the world, and we can see multiple locations. So it's giving us a very comprehensive look at all of our different locations that we're trying to manage. It's AI powered, so it gives us analytics and it gives us status alerts. So if something goes down, if a site loses connectivity, maybe an AP loses connectivity, DHCP is lost, it's going to give us all those alerts and visibility into our networks. Maintenance and upgrades, that's truly easy, right? So a big factor I find on my calls when I'm talking to partners is they are on this old code, they haven't upgraded for a long time. Aruba Central really gets rid of that issue, right? You don't have to worry about trying to roll out these updates and pick a time when you're going to upgrade them. It's really the upgrade and auditing of everything is truly simple clicks. Does it, gives you status reports on the upgrades, tells you the features and benefits that you're going to get from it. And it's one of the greatest benefits of the central dashboard is the fact that troubleshooting or finding out what your issues are in the network, you don't have to wait until a million trouble tickets come in flooding into your IT department. They're getting the status alerts first, so they can jump on it and try to fix it and mitigate it before it becomes a flood of problems. And then last, I almost missed the role-based administrators. So essentially with Aruba Central, you can set different roles based off of user credentials. So if you want somebody to focus on maybe just your wireless or maybe certain network, right? You have local IT site supports. With Aruba Central, you can actually drill down and you can give different permissions or different roles to your different IT staffs. This is really great for like MSP environments. So if you're a managed service provider, you can, see a geographical view like on the slide, and you can manage all the different sites. But then if there's, you know, dedicated resources at each of the companies, you can still give them access to certain roles and features if they, you know, want to have some type of control over their environment. So some big benefits for Aruba Central. So I already talked about the artificial intelligence, which is great. You know, that's what's giving you your alerts, your analytics. That's what's telling you if things are broken, if, you know, something is going to break, if there's maybe latency on the network. The high scale, you know, scaling and resilience of the Aruba Central. So no longer are the days that you have to worry about moving up to a controller, right? Oh, I'm reaching my license capacities or my limits, or I'm deploying a new site, right? With Aruba Central, you're just purchasing more APs, purchasing licenses for those APs, and you're scaling it out. There's really no limitation. You know, the sky's the limit. The cloud's the limit. Zero trust security and dynamic segmentation is the security aspect that Aruba Central gives us, where you can put policies in place to where it's only going to allow things until you allow them, right? It's going to block everything and only allow on, you know, your command, which, you know, locks it down for those environments that, you know, you don't want to you don't want to go putting out fires. You want to, you know, open the doors when needed and, you know, keep everything else closed. We talked about the simplified, you know, deployment, single pane of glass, the updates, no downtime. There are special promotions and offers that we're going to talk about at the end with the how to buy. So it's our buy 3 get 2 free promotion, and encompasses Aruba Central. And those are all the benefits that Greenfield would take advantage of. Now, Brownfield will take advantage of all of those, but then have the added benefits of, you know, if you already have instant APs deployed or already have some Aruba equipment on site, right? Aruba Central is just a license. You're not ripping and replacing. You don't have to pull everything out and put a new solution in. It's really just a licensing enhancement that you purchase, registered to the cloud, and there you go, right? So, you know, you're going to have a lower total cost of ownership because it's not something that you're constantly ripping and replacing. It's not something that you're going to outgrow ever, right? There's not a controller that, you know, is potentially going to hit its licenses max or hit its throughput max, because, you know, it's all cloud-based. So 3 major takeaways that I wanted to talk about, or wanted to kind of hit upon with Aruba Central, is the scale, right? So you have a higher scale capability. You have the ability to, you know, scale up, scale out. You don't have to worry about limitations of controllers or licensing, besides the subscription licensing. The resilience of your of the cloud. So because we have multiple data centers where Aruba Central is hosted, you know, you don't have to worry about something going out. You don't have to worry about having HA controllers everywhere and a fault tolerance for your networks. It's built in, it's baked in. By purchasing the subscriptions, you own it. And then simplified operations, right? So because you're getting that simple to use, easy single pane of glass dashboard, everything you're managing from your switches, your wireless, your gateways, you know, it's all through that one pane of glass. And I don't want to forget this. So the Aruba Instant is essentially what started it all, where Aruba Central, you know, was built on top of how powerful the instant APs are, with all the features that are baked into our instant APs, just right from the APs, right? And right from the get-go. You have your RF management, your adaptive radios, so it can automatically select channels, change things as needed, match clients to the proper radios and channels, APs individually, you know, so you don't want to make sure that they're connecting to an AP that's too far or being a sticky client. A lot of security features that are built right into the AP, so firewalls and role-based. And all of these features on this slide are what Aruba Central is taking advantage of, right? So for anybody that's familiar with Aruba Central or Aruba Instant APs today, the Aruba Central is taking advantage of all of that. You're getting all of those same features. You're just now putting in the cloud and then putting AI capabilities on top of it and getting advanced analytics and reporting, monitoring. It's just taking something that was already great and making it even better. And then zero-touch provisioning. So with zero-touch provisioning, and we're going to talk about how we purchase it in a second to kind of marry the two together. But you can purchase switches or you can purchase APs, you can send them to different locations, and you don't have to worry about somebody on site having to configure them or prepping them, right? You will go to the web portal, you'll configure your settings and configurations right from the Aruba Central. You plug in the AP or the switch, it automatically registers to the cloud, pulls down the configuration, and you're good to go, right? So it's as simple as 1, 2, 3, 4. No, gone are the days where you have to plug it in, find the management IP or find your console cable, connect in and push out your configurations and parse through lines of code, right? It's plug and play. So Aruba Central can be deployed multiple ways. I covered this early on, but I wanted to give a nice little slide to show the kind of flexibility of it and the growing flexibility. So we have our cloud, our SaaS option, where you'd buy subscriptions based off of your hardware that you're purchasing. New that just came out this year. It's still being baked, still being developed, but it's a really robust solution for people that don't want a cloud-based solution. We have a on-premise solution where you can buy a appliance, run Aruba Central in your own data centers and have everything registered to it. And then we have a managed service from our HPE GreenLakes, where they can, with a custom scope of work and depending on the size of the the opportunity, they'll give you all the management and functionality where you won't even have to worry about managing if you don't have staff to manage it. Last, before we talk about the actual how to purchase it, Aruba Central has added services for our wireless. So there's additional tokens that you'd purchase that would give you additional functions as far as the enhanced guest Wi-Fi, presence analytics, and the unified communications piece. Clarity used to be a piece that you had to purchase. So if anybody's been purchasing Aruba Central or familiar with it, you might have at one point purchased a token for Clarity to give you your analytics on how the network's running. Aruba decided, hey, you know what? We're just going to bake this into the software. It's going to be free. And they did. So how Aruba Central is purchased. So we have for APs, we have device tokens, the service tokens, which we just talked about, and then hardware support. Hardware support is optional. However, we highly recommend it. You don't want to, be waiting a couple days for an AP to be replaced. Might be different in a large environment where you have a ton of APs, and the APs are going to adapt to an AP outage and try to cover that gap in coverage. But in smaller environments, right, you lose an AP, you might be losing a whole section or office, a section of the office for coverage. You can purchase the SKUs in 1, 3, or 5 year options. So for the device tokens, service tokens, or hardware options, you get 1, 3, and 5 year. And then for switching, they made it even easier. It's just a device license, right? So you just purchase 1 license per device, per switch, and then the hardware support, and you're golden. And it all marries to the cloud. The device licenses from the switches and the APs are actually the same device licenses. So that's one thing that I think is huge compared to any other cloud vendor out there, is typically you have a license based off of what the device is, right? You might have a switch and you might have a specific model of switch that gets the license. In the Aruba Central world, right, it's just 1 license. There's 1 license you're buying, whether it's an AP, whether it's a switch. They're not going to charge you based off of the cost of the item and charge you more just because it's a higher end AP or a higher end switch. It's flat across the board. So it's really a huge savings that you're not kind of being robbed for your more money just because you are getting 24 more ports, right? It's the same switch, just more ports. The cost, I never understood why you'd have to pay more just because there's more ports on the switch. So with Aruba Central, there are specific CM SKUs that are drop shipped from Aruba Direct that you would purchase that ensures that when you purchase those items, they're going to be registered and onboarded into your account before you get it. So, you don't want to get an item, plug it in, and have to manually configure it to reach out to the cloud. So what Aruba did is created special SKUs, just delineating a CM at the end of the SKU, as this chart shows here. So you have your specific part number, and then a CM at the end of the part number that all it's designating is central managed, and it's going to be shipped from Aruba. And when you get it on site, you just plug it in. It's already going to be provisioned in your account. You already had the ability to provision your configurations, and it's just going to work like magic, auto magic. Last, before I turn it over for the demo portion, is our Aruba Central promotion running. It's actually the buy 3, get 2 free promotion on our access points. So this promotion is huge. It's been one of the biggest value adds that I've seen, right? People just love this promotion. When you purchase purchase 3 access points, you'll get 2 free, and that covers the Aruba Central licenses as well. So you do have to marry them together, right? So you can't just purchase Aruba Central and not the APs and take advantage of the promotion. But if you are ordering the APs, you have the ability to also take advantage of Aruba Central licenses purchased in 1, 3, or 5 years. You buy 3, you get 2 free, so it'll match exactly how the APs are. It does only work up to 20 free units, so depending on how large of the scale out, there is a cap to it. But that promotion is effective until the 31st of January, but they've been running that promotion pretty regularly, so I wouldn't doubt, or I'd hedge my bet on it being extended, because it is a truly powerful promotion that's been flooding people with instant APs. And then for our E-rate customers, they do have a 5-year SKU that gives you the 1 management license and 2 tokens for a very heavily discounted cost. So it's a $275 USD. Typically those licensed separately, I believe, would be around, $400? So 400 separately if you were to purchase all those out. So for our E-rate and education customers, schools and libraries, they can take advantage of the E-rate promotion. Alrighty, so thank you everyone. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them now. If not, I will turn it over to John, and we will give you a demo of the actual central portal.
Hey everyone, let me share my screen. Let's see. Yep. Give me a second here. All right, can everybody see my screen there?
Yep.
All right. So again, I'm John Busshart. I work out of our Business Transformation Center, and my main role is to be able to provide demonstrations, as I'm going to show you, for you as well as your customers. I work across the HP portfolio, so not only do I support Aruba networking technology, but I do the server and storage products from HP. So we're going to spend a little time, and we're going to talk about Aruba Central and its capabilities. Let's see. So here we are. We're up at Aruba Central. Here we can see central.arubanetworks.com. I have one site here, and if I zoom out a little bit on this site, we will see that we're actually not too far from Niagara Falls, about 45 minutes away. I can also tell, put that over there. I can also tell that my site's pretty good, right? If it's got green, no issues. If anything had popped up, we'll see it would turn up as red. As I zoom out, again, I've got this one site, but I've had multiple sites across the country or across the globe. They would show up as dots around there, and I could highlight them and get a little bit of information on there. Now, as a part of this demonstration, it's going to be important to understand what context we're in. So over here, we're in the global context. So I'm looking at everything across the globe that I have configured within Aruba Central. I can bring that down and look at different portions. Of course, groups is going to look very similar to the configuration within groups. Going to look very similar to what we'd see on a global scale. All right, so those look very similar. But again, it's going to be important to understand the context, so we can look at it based on a global context, group context, a site, or even individual labels. You can see things broken out into our classroom within the Business Transformation Center, as well as our data center. And I got different devices in there, and the reporting or the configuration that we can do is going to matter based on what we've selected here. So things will change based over here on what I've selected, as well as the tabs I get and some of the options I get over here. So we're going to go through some of that. So right now we're looking at network health, and we kind of went through that. We can certainly get WAN health if we had that configured in our environment. Over here we get some network summary, or from a global perspective. So we get our usage, the clients that are connected. We don't have a lot of people in the office, so there's only a few people in the office right now. Bandwidth utilization. This would be overall on all wireless LANs, but I can actually break that down to individual wireless LANs. Client count, again, I'm looking at all the wireless networks, but we could look at individual ones as well if I felt like it. We could look at top access points by usage. Again, I have 2 within an instant cluster, and here we have an IAP cluster. So if you don't know what an IAP cluster, Brandon mentioned it a couple times. If you get a bunch of Aruba access points on the same subnet, they'll kind of form together and create their own cluster and elect one of them to be a virtual interface or a virtual controller in that environment. You can manage pretty decent size wireless networks with the solution. What Aruba Central is doing is bringing that up into the cloud or managing that through the cloud. Now, a nice thing about Aruba Central is you can buy the subscriptions, and I would certainly recommend that you do it. But if for one reason, like, you know, none of our customers ever get cheap over time, right? But if for one reason they decided they don't want to buy the Aruba Central licenses, you're not getting a doorstop out of the access point you purchased. It will still function. As a matter of fact, the configuration that you made within Aruba Central will still exist on the individual groupings of access points at sites, you could say. You're just going to have to manage them separately. So the configuration will stay in place. You can come in and out of the cloud as your customer sees fit. So that's kind of a nice feature. You don't necessarily see that's out there. So that's what an IAP cluster is. We can also see the top IAP cluster by clients, as well as individual clients over here. Now I'm going to pick on this one Android client, and we can actually click on this. Now, if you notice, our context changed from being global to this individual client that's over here, and some of our options changed over here. But what's nice, we get a nice view of this client. So we can see the client there, what SSID they're connected to, the access point they're connected to, as well as the switch they're connected to, if that switch is managed by Aruba Central. All right, we can get some great things: throughput, their health, signal quality, you know, retry frames, just a bunch of information on this user. And if I click back, it's going to bring me back into the global context, but underneath clients. And again, I can see all the clients that exist under here. Now, this is an interesting client. This is a utility that Aruba has called the User Experience Insight. And what it does is it acts like a client on your network and actually gives you some reporting on issues that are kind of. It's a nice solution. If you need to know more about it, I can certainly show you. But this client is, again, connecting through this SSID or this network, right? This access point and this switch. Right, and we can see a variety of great information about this client. I wanted to go down to the applications. Right, these are the applications that this client is using on our network. So I suppose if this was a regular office worker, I kind of have questions as to why they're on Facebook for a lot of the times during the day, and I could fish into that. So it gives you a great way of kind of looking into what your users are kind of doing on their network, how they're utilizing your bandwidth. Right, we can even look at the websites they're going to. Right, whether they're trustworthy, and most of these sites are low risk, right, and what type of websites they're going to. All right, we can click back again. We're in the clients overview. We can see all the clients in here. Again, we got to this context from the overview and the summary page. So we're going to continue our walk across the top here. Next, we'll look at Wi-Fi connectivity. Right, there's really no issues that are going on in the environment. That's why these are all blank. If something popped up, they would show in this area, and we'd be able to see if anything crazy is kind of happening. AI insights, right? Are there any issues? I would say these are rocks that you can look under to be able to find if there's problems going on in your network. For example, here we see that there's dual band clients that are connecting to 2.4 gigahertz. When I open that up, I get a little bit more information as to when that has happened in the environment, and then how many clients are impacted. So only a couple clients are impacted. So I'm not overly useful, but this is handy information to be able to know. Right up here, we could see we've got some switch port errors, but we could see that's really only impacted a couple ports and at specific times. Right, so again, we're looking at a global perspective. We can look at the individual devices. Right, I have a couple access points. Right, one's in the classroom, one's in our data center, and they're forming one virtual controller. They both have the same incident that's over here. I also can see the switches that I'm managing. Right, I can also change from a list view to a summary view, so I can understand the usage in the clients that exist. And I can also do that over here under access points as well, right, where I can get a summary view, again, getting a little bit more detailed view as far as uses and clients inside this environment, as opposed to this instant access point cluster. Let's see what else. I can also, we are on applications for the client, but I could also look globally at what the users are using on the network. Again, if I've seen that one user that's using Facebook, we'll say, right? I can go dig that out in here and see how many other people are utilizing that information. I can see people that are using YouTube, for example, right? So this is all great information for being able to understand how to massage traffic on the environment. We're going to go through some of these other menus as we go through this. What I'm going to do is go into a configuration context. So I'm going to select a group. Now I can configure my environment at a group level, and any of the devices, whether they're access points and switches that exist across the globe, can get this configuration. So I'm under the Business Transformation Center group. I'm looking at devices, and over here I have a config icon. So if I click on that, it's going to bring up my wireless SSIDs. And if let me see if I can get this. I got a little, here we go. So I got these wireless SSIDs, and I've actually got a client on site, and I can open this up over here. We could see those SSIDs kind of pop up down here, right? But anything I create this context will go downstream. As a matter of fact, if we'll go back and look at a list view, and we'll see the instant cluster. And if I select that, notice how my context changes to that instant cluster, right? And I can go into config, and we'll see that those SSIDs have been pushed down to here. Now to kind of, accentuate that, what I'm going to do is create an SSID at this level, and I'll show you it doesn't populate necessarily up to the global level, right? So we're going to add an SSID. We're going to give it a name, and we'll just call it this. Now I'm going to create a guest network. Just so you can see how that goes through. There are advanced settings. One of the things I think people really like is the bandwidth control. So if this is a guest network, I might want to limit the throughput. Maybe my bandwidth is precious. I want to give people guest access, but I don't want them to overrun my production network with traffic. So I have the ability to be able to massage the traffic in that perspective. All right, so we've got a name. Again, I'm going to create a guest network. Next, we're going to talk about IP assignments. So I could certainly get an IP address from the DHCP server on the native VLAN of the access points if I wanted to. So that'd be within the same subnet of the access points. I can also do dynamic or static VLANs if I wanted to. So I could do things like I could pull that out. It's on the native VLAN, but I could do maybe VLAN 80 if I wanted to, and kind of steer those users that are on this SSID to a different VLAN that might be more of a protected VLAN, which might be important for users that are on a guest network. I'm going to do instant assign. That's really what I want to use in this environment. And again, I could use a custom VLAN if I wanted to. But this is nice because what this does is create a little NAT router between the client and the internet. So for example, we'll say we're setting up this guest user for a diner or something like that. Just because I'm using their guest Wi-Fi, it doesn't mean that I want other users within that diner to be able to have access to see what I'm doing on a network. One of those users could certainly be a hacker. I don't want necessarily have them hack the other people within my diner. So this kind of protects them, creates a little NAT router between them and the other users that are out there. So I'm going to click next again, and now we're going to look at security. So there are different types of security. I don't know why anybody would want to have a open wireless network, but they have that here if you want to do that. We're going to come back to Captive Portal, and that's the splash page. If somebody opens up a guest wireless network, that pops up. You got to accept certain terms and conditions. Maybe there's a username or password or something like that. There's certainly personal, and we probably all know the personal. That's where you have to put, you connect to a wireless network, you have to put a passphrase or something in there. We probably all have that in our home networks. There's also enterprise, right? And this is where you require a username as well as a password to gain access to the networks. And there's different ways to tie that in. So right here, I've got an internal server. So this is an internal to the Aruba Central, or the instant access points, I should say, and we can manage those users down there. But we could do some more advanced things. I could actually add an external radius server, and in Aruba's world, that's something like ClearPass. So I kind of say ClearPass is like a radius server on steroids. It does a lot more than that. But I have the ability to be able to do that, as well as some other ways of authenticating. This is a nice way to be able to tie your users, if they need a username and password to be able to get into the wireless network, we can tie that back to something like Active Directory, right? So they can get in based on their roles in Active Directory, and we kind of can segment their access, or what VLANs, or where they have access to items in the network by doing this, right? So that would be this, and I recommend looking at that. I've certainly have done demonstrations on Aruba Central and ClearPass and that integration. We're actually, for here, we're going to do the captive portal. All right, and now the instant access points have a very rudimentary captive portal that you can use. Now, using the service tokens that Brandon had talked about, we can have a more advanced portal. I'm going to kind of show you both so you get an idea of why you'd want to do that. So here we've got the internal connected. We're going to customize the portal. All right, we've got a few things that we can set here. Here, if we preview it, this is pretty much what the portal is going to look like. I think you can put an icon over here. You can change the colors of the top and bottom, and you can change this wording. But it's a pretty rudimentary guest portal. Maybe that's all you need for your customer. Maybe that's all they want. Maybe you need a more advanced presence for your customers. That's where I'd use the guest portal. And I'm going to cancel this, and we'll go over here, and we could see we could do an external portal, which would be ClearPass again, and if we're looking at Arubas, but an external captive portal, there are other solutions. ClearPass is one of them, and that would be the utmost that you could possibly get out of a guest portal. But I'm using Cloud Guest, and I actually have this already configured, and we'll look at that configuration a little bit. That's what I'm going to use. That's more of an enhanced guest portal. We'll see that in a second. You'll see some of the differences in that. I'm going to click Next. Right now, my users have unrestricted access to the internet. Now, everything I want to show you here, we could create a role out of and assign that, but I actually want to massage that traffic a little bit. So we're going to do network-based access. Right now, they have untethered access to the internet, but I'm going to want to massage that traffic. Now, this doesn't have to be just for guest networks. This could be for any wireless network that I create within Aruba Central. So let's add a rule. And maybe I want, and we got a variety of things we can do. Right, so I can allow or deny a whole great many things to a particular network, to a server, to an access point. I can massage that traffic all over the place. We can choose application categories, web categories. Right away, we can see things that we may want to block inside the environment. I don't necessarily want to make a mistake and grab something in there. So today I'm sick of the news. You know, whether it's blue or it's a red news, I'm done. We're going to deny anybody access to any news media within our environment. So I'm going to click OK. Right, so I'm going to deny that, and we're going to create another role. Maybe I want to allow somebody access to something, but I don't necessarily want them to eat all the bandwidth on my network. So something like YouTube. Maybe I don't want the next viral video, have everybody kind of watch that and eat up the bandwidth, and I can't get production traffic on through. So maybe I want to limit that. Right, and what I'm going to do is do application throttling down here. And I'm going to do, and certainly you probably wouldn't want to do this for your network. I'm going to give them twice a 56K modem. Maybe I'm showing my age by saying that, but we're going to do 128K up and down for YouTube traffic. I'm going to click OK. So again, we're going to allow people to get to YouTube, but we're not going to allow them untethered bandwidth to YouTube. So a variety of ways we can massage traffic on our network. I'm going to click Next again. This is our summary page, and I'm going to click Finish. And we can see that that's been created, and we can see that SSID exists. Now, going back to my original point, let's go. I created this at the instant access point level, so this won't get populated up into the global level. I would probably imagine that a large organization would want to have all their guest portals the same across the globe. So you may want to configure that at a global setting or at a group setting and have that passed down. All right, but I didn't do that in this case, but just to kind of show you that point, let's go back up. Let's look at a global setting. Let's look under the config for these devices. Let's see. Oh, excuse me. Let's go look under a group setting, and let's look at the config for these devices. And you can see that SSID hasn't populated up into this perspective. But again, if I dig back down into this instant access point and look at the config, where you can see that that SSID exists. So let's connect to that wireless network. All right, here's my client that's on site. See if we can find it. There's a lot of wireless going on inside our networks. Sometimes I breeze on by it pretty quickly. There it is. So let's open that up. Let's connect. And if everything goes well, we should see a splash page pop up. It's been going a little slow today. I don't know why. All right, so there's our guest splash page. So that's a lot different than the basic splash page that I got off the Aruba Instant Access Points. Again, that's a token. I'll show you some of the configuration options in a little bit, but let's enter into this wireless network. Notice how it's going to drop me off for you guys to place all your orders of Aruba Central at the Ingram Micro website. All right, now let's try some of these websites. Let's first why don't we go to YouTube? You can see that YouTube comes up. It's coming up a little slow. And to plug myself, I actually have a YouTube site. If you go Ingram and BTC, again, that's short for Business Transformation Center. You'll kind of see my ugly mug up there. We'll click on that, and we can see that the videos, so maybe we'll select this one here. I'm talking about a Reliant server. And we can see, and I'll fast forward a little bit, that it works, but I'm not buffering as quick. So I'm giving users access to the video content. I'm just not giving them the capabilities to kind of eat up the bandwidth on my network. All right, so some other things. So remember, I blocked the news stations. So let's try CNN first. All right, so certainly that's clocking out. We can also do Fox News, and we can see that's clocking out as well. So I have the ability to kind of massage the traffic on these networks. Again, this is for the guest network, but this could be regular wireless users on my network. I could use that. So Facebook was an issue that I identified in my environment. I can go in and create a rule, or maybe I want to not be such a mean guy. Maybe I just want to limit bandwidth to that on my network. All right, so that's the connection. Let's show you the guest portal a little bit and how that configures, because that was certainly a more robust configuration. I go back, and we're at a global level. Down here, we'll see guests. Right, and here's the splash pages I configured. That was the one I selected, and to remind you, that was this guest page here, so the more elaborate one. All right, so we're going to go into that, and why don't we configure that right now? And we can see we've got a variety of things. Right, so we could do Facebook Wi-Fi if we felt like it. We could do the redirect URL if you felt like it. We could do session timeout, right, which is handy for guest networks. Daily usage if we want people to use more time on our network. Here's our allow list. So do we want a user to get to a particular network just because you didn't accept my agreement on my guest Wi-Fi? I still would like you to get the ingrammicro.com to order Aruba Central or Aruba products, right? So I might allow that through anyways. Right, there's other customizations down here. So how the view is, colors in the background, some branding, some different logos, terms and conditions that your legal department might want to apply, ad settings, right, and even all this localization information, right, all this context that you could add into this environment. So there's a lot of things that we could add to configure within this environment. Now that's wireless. This will also manage switches as well. So if I go back over to, and we'll select the Business Transformation Center, we'll go to devices. There are switches here. So certainly I don't want to get into the nerdy realm of this, but I want to go dig into, show you the config. Now I can config at a global level, all my switches exactly the same way, and I have that config button. Mine is configured at a site level, so I'm going to select, or at a device level, so I'm going to select that device. You notice my context has changed over here, right? I'm going to select the devices, and I'm under config right now. We could see that we can see the switches. I can look at the stacks of switches if I had a stack. We can look at the different interfaces, so I could select this interface, and not to get too far in the weeds, but these are some of the settings. We could look at VLANs, right? These are the VLANs I have on the switch. We could add a VLAN if we felt like it, right? And we could add the ports we wanted in that VLAN. Whole variety of things, security, access control policies, port rate limiting, a whole variety of things that we can configure in this environment. Again, we can configure this at a global level or at an individual switch level within this environment, right? The last thing I'm going to leave you off is with reporting. So if I look at a global level, and again, I could do this reporting at a global level at any one of these entities. So a global level, individual groups, individual sites, or individual labels, we could do that, right? All right, and we could go down to reports down here, and we could take a look at, we could create all these different types of reports that are out there. All right, so I could select PCI compliance maybe, click next. What do I want to look at? All right, click next again. Now I'm not going to click, create this, because they don't take very long to create, but they take a little bit longer than it is that I want to kind of show you on this this webinar, so I'm going to cancel. So I have a couple of reports that I've already created, so I'm going to browse them here. I have some Wi-Fi summary as well as application summary. So again, I've already identified, I want to understand the applications that people are using on my network. So I can click on that. Right, I can email this, obviously created in PDF in a variety of ways. And this should populate a little bit, but let me go grab that report again. And we should see little graphs here. Hang on a second. I don't know why it's not populating. We'll do this one more time. There we go. So we got these little graphs that tell us what our customers are doing on the network, or what our users on our network is doing. Again, I've kind of identified Facebook, so I get an understanding of what's going on. That's not all that much, really. Top 10 web categories, applications by device types, and then some other categories that people are going to. So this is a nice view of how people are using my wireless network, so the applications that they're using. I've got another one over here about the wireless, so let's click on that. So we can see unique clients that are attaching to my network per day. We can see the average clients per day, as well as the overall time of utilization. All right, top 10 clients. Right, it might be nice to know who my heavy hitter is. Like this guy, I might want to dig into that because he's using about 13 gigabytes. What are they doing? Here's another one that's 11 gigabytes of information. Right. So there's a variety of reports that you can use in the environment. So there's a lot of things you can really do within Aruba Central to really gain an understanding of what's going on with your clients. I can even click on this client here, right, and go to location. Where does this client even exist within this network? And that's where he exists. And that's pretty close. I would say within 6 feet of where that client is. So if a client is having problems, you can go dig in and get a greater understanding of what's happening and where he is on the network. So that's kind of my quick Aruba Central overview. I'm going to hand it back to Alex to kind of sum everything up for us.
Thanks, John, and thank you again to Brandon. At this time, I'll unmute you guys. Just very informal. See if you guys have any questions for either Brandon or John. And this session will be recorded, so you guys are all on our Aruba Go site. So we will repost to the site in case you wanted to share with your teams. I would say you should have our team's email alias. That's going to be hpearuba@ingrammicro.com. So if there's anything that comes up after this that you want to reach out to the team for, please do so. We can assist with any quoting and get either one of these great technical resources back into a conversation for you.
Yeah, a lot of time Brandon and I will tag team on things. So.
Right. Any questions out there, guys? All right. I would say if there's no questions, have a nice day. Like I said, please feel free to check back into the Aruba Go site for the recording and reach out to our team for anything that you might need from us.
Have a nice day, everyone.
All right, guys. Thanks so much. Enjoy.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Alex, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.